Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
Hello, Coach.
Hey,
I wanted to change it up.
Hello.
Just a hello. It's a nice hello.
That's good. Real quick, power minute for tonight's episode or today or whenever you're listening. We're talking about developing player leadership, specifically how to use squad leaders to develop some leadership. Trusting your athletes to take on those roles that you want to give them, and then creating a system of on-field leadership that will show up for you on game nights. Last week, we talked about how to adjust your defense to motions and shifts, and next week, we can't run the ball effectively, so it'd be the how-to manual to getting an effective, efficient run game.
How to run wedge. It's going to be a 90-minute podcast on wedge.
Love it. I need to learn. I saw wedge. I had actually game film analysis, a team that started with Q wedge just the other day. And I was like, P and 10, start the game with Q wedge. Let's go. Loved it.
Set the tone.
Set the tone. We're going to run wedge, baby. Yeah. It's been a great week. Minus we got kicked out of the playoffs or out of the playoff contention. Unfortunately, took a loss. It's a very up and down year for us. We started the year with a great win over a rival who's gone on to do some great things and ended it by getting beat by my alma mater. So 10-week season this year.
Oof.
But there's always next year. So we kind of start.
You guys play 9 regular season games?
Now we play 10.
Oh, you play 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Play 10. Anywho. Yeah, dude. Might as well pay some bills and jump right in the conversation here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go fast. Sonic. The Hedgehog. Good dude, Sonic. I had to pull this up.
You're fine.
All right. Difference between a defense that wins championships and one that gives up big plays every Friday night is not talent. It is your system. And if you don't have a real system in place, you spend every week chasing problems. Your players are confused. Your coaches are not in alignment, and your defense is reacting instead of attacking. And I've worked with over 10,000 football coaches at JDFB. The biggest mistake we see is overcomplicating the game. You've got a stack of plays that don't work with each other. Sometimes they work against each other. Front stunts, blitzes, and coverages, but no real plan behind it. When you install a true defensive system, everything changes. Your players play faster, your coaches call plays with confidence, and you start winning more football games. And so I created a free guide called What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. It's a blueprint to simplify your defense, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. You can grab a free copy now at footballdefense.com. Yes, it is alive. Footballdefense.com. Start building your ultimate defensive system today. No hyphen in that one. Just straight up footballdefense.com. Had it laying around. Needed to use it for something. So
I love it.
Don't have to say system over and over again anymore. Footballdefense.com.
I don't like that as much. Each system.
You like to hear system over. You can still go to joedanielfootball.com/system, but
footballdefense.com. It's good stuff. I want to remind you guys that Athletic Speed Movement is just about to take off for the spring. Get over to joedanielfootball.com. Scroll down the bottom and hit speed training, a little button there.
Nope.
No.
Go to athleticspeedmovement.com.
athleticspeedmovement.com. Love it. athleticspeedmovement.com. You can jump over, get signed up today. This is it's the best of the best that's out there in the training speed for high school athletes, youth athletes, your travel ball kid, your volleyball girls. They all can use this system. So feel free to get it and share the wealth amongst every sport that's on your campus. But when you want to jump in January, you want to know what you're doing. So get it now. Study the PDFs. Very simple to use PDFs. I love that kind of how-to guide that walks you through everything. Coaching points, where your eyes are, what the drills look like, everything. athleticspeedmovement.com. Jump over there, sign up today so you can start getting faster this spring. Oh, the tagline, don't just play the game, outrun it. I love it. It's still my favorite. All right, let's do this. First, if the show has helped you in your coaching journey, share it, post it, text it, drop it in the group chat for your staff. Send it to the parents on staff. I don't know. Get it out there. we really want to get more coaches plugged in, and especially getting their level up. So let's get there. Part 1, Joe. Talking about creating or developing leadership on your team. Player leadership specifically. I think coaches is another huge one, which could be its own episode probably.
Yep.
How are we using squad leaders to start developing this player leadership?
The squad leader is just the tool, and that you need, a tool that we use to do it. But everybody knows that you need leadership on your football program. Everybody talks about leadership. But what we hear a lot is, I don't have any leadership. None of my kids are natural born leaders. And I mean, I don't know how many kids are natural born leaders. I mean, I can just tell you myself personally. I can use myself as I ended up being a pretty good teacher, and I ended up being a pretty decent football coach, and I run a company. I feel like I, at this point in my life, have some leadership ability. I can tell you right now, at 16, I had none. There was no natural leadership ability. And quite frankly, I don't know that anybody tried to develop it in me, especially not, maybe my dad to an extent. But I don't know that my coaches were really like, yeah, I played at a school with 150 players. Like, there were natural leaders. There were people that were better football players than me and more outspoken, and they had all the components of leadership that were needed. And it wasn't that I had a leadership ability because I worked hard and that kind of stuff, but for a long time, that was it. And I coasted on that. I mean, I coasted on that, but that was what I had. And so I think the idea that leaders are born, not made, is total bullcrap from people who either just don't know or want an excuse for their failure rather than going to work. And Daniel, you talk a lot about, and we both do, but you especially talk a lot about extreme ownership. And you can take extreme ownership one of two ways here. One is to say, we have no leadership, I'll just do it. And that leads to a lot of burnout and exhaustion as a football coach. And at the end of the day, still not much leadership, right? The other way is to say, we have no leaders. We're going to find a way to make leaders. And in the process, it's like I think it's a slide, right? Where day one, yeah, you are 100% the leader, but you're trying to cut that to 90%, 80%, 70%. And in a year, 2 years, maybe be down to like this kind of, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 years. Sometimes it doesn't come together at all. It's even harder now with kids transferring in and out and stuff, because you don't get to develop your middle school kids for 8 years. But we do develop leadership. I don't believe at all that leadership is something that is just in some people. I'm sure that it is, but I don't think it's something you're born with. I think that if you happen to have been in a environment where leadership was really modeled for you, maybe you come out with that. But we also know a number of things. One, leadership is influence, and it's not positive or negative. What you're talking about as a football coach is, we don't have any positive leadership. I guarantee you there's kids in your school or on your football team probably that have a lot of bad influence on the rest of the players around them. They influence the other players to skip practice. They influence the other players to dog it in drills. Then you go outside of that, and they influence players to, they influence other people to do drugs or to do this or to do that, and all sorts of things, right? There's plenty of people around you that have influence. And we know that it's not 100%, but you often see somebody who has phenomenal leadership end up with kids that are crap, right? It's pretty common, because this person worked their butt off, and then their kids have that entitlement from it. And it's not just around, there's so much that goes into this, and that's not an automatic by any means, but there's so much that goes into this. So I think the number one thing we want to start the podcast off with is the idea that leadership, leaders are born and not made is just, I mean, we have an entire, and today we're recording on Veterans Day, by the way. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have an entire massive system that does nothing but develop leaders.
Right.
And so how do you look at any military, but look at the U.S. military and go, now leaders are born and we just don't have them? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous to assume that you can't create a leader. Now, we're in a special place where, first, let me defend extreme ownership. I love that you gave it two variations there, but extreme ownership says, if you're in here, you're listening to this episode and you're like, yep, we don't have leaders. That's your fault. What are you doing to develop those leaders? Right. It's less of the, I'm just going to do everything. It's understanding. It's kind of, if you read the second book in that series, the dichotomy of
that's
that's the slider.
The understanding of it is,
yes,
it can go both ways, because you can just say extreme ownership, this is on you. We've talked about this with various people in our lives listening to extreme ownership who go, how dare they say that?
I
And
remember
it's like,
your
that's not,
wife was very upset about it.
yeah, it's like, that's not
yes,
no.
Can be perceived both ways, but it really just means you need to find a way, whatever it takes, right? Just go find a way to fix it. We are in a situation where you have to look at, how do I say this? Developing leaders is hard enough when you have people who are mediocre in their confidence and they know what they're doing, right? It takes certain pieces. That's why we have the whole leadership model that the Army gives us, is like, you got to look the part, know stuff, feel like you got to have the confidence, you got to, integrity and all of these things. So when you're talking about junior high, middle school, junior high, and high school kids that you're trying to develop leadership, well, they don't have like 8 spokes of that bicycle wheel, right? Like, they need so much stuff to ever be a true leader. No one's going to follow the skinny little wimpy kid who stands up and screams real loud, do the drill better, guys. Like, you don't look the part. You have no idea what you're talking about. You had a burst of confidence, maybe at the wrong time, right? Your bicycle is going to quickly go off because you don't have all those spokes that the leadership wheel needs. So that's kind of where I think coaches have to look back, is like, how do we're going to talk tonight. And by the title of these, Joe, I know where you're trying to go and trying to put people in these leadership positions. That absolutely has to happen. You got to learn by trial by fire. There's no simple way to learn leadership, but please do look up the be no do model of the U.S. Army and just read everyone. It's just a little pie chart that is broken down and tells you what each piece of the pie needs to be successful. And if your kids don't have them, that's where you have to start building. You have to give your kids actual confidence, which means competence. You got to give them expertise, which means make them great at something. Quit moving them from corner to safety to backer to, now you're defensive end. They can never become an expert. So that's, when you start talking developing leadership, it's very much like identifying where you're weak. What are your kids missing on being a leader, and then developing that. And then we're going to get into ways later to kind of, push the issues a little higher. But
so the first thing is, and we're going to talk a little bit about who those people should be and how to develop those people if you don't have them, and how to put them in positions. But the first one is something that I got from Rick Stewart, and I talk about it a lot in all access coaching. And Rick's been a very successful football coach. He's been on the podcast a few times, had his own podcast. And Rick's model is called squad leaders, is what I got from him. And it's really, really simple. And it's really smart, because you can really sliding scale this thing from just taking a little bit off of your plate to turning the whole program over. And so the way that squad leaders work is to look at your program, and it really works top to bottom. If you're in a high school varsity program, you're going to take however many you have. If you've got 4, okay, you probably have more than you think. And it's in a class of 20, in a varsity locker room of 27, that was an experienced locker room, we had 9.
That's good.
But that's, I mean, it's a third of the team, but those 9, and there probably could have been 1 or 2 more in all honesty, but out of those 9, they were a mix of sophomores or of juniors and seniors. I think there might have been 1 sophomore, but basically identified 9 kids and it started with 8, by the way. One of the great things about this is it's flexible. So you can fire a kid. I don't like captains because stripping a kid of captain is like, man, like you pick 4 captains, you vote on them, you have this whole ceremony. It was just like, no, these are the 8 or 9 squad leaders. These are the guys that us as coaches, and then if you've got 3 or 4 that you just know you pull, they've already been like maybe they were squad leaders last year, maybe they were your captains last year and they were successful in that position. They've been in a leadership position, and you call them in and say, what do you think about these guys? And this guy, you think he can take it. So you get whatever group you have. I don't think it's something, I don't, kids voting on captains and all of a sudden something becomes a popularity contest and you're like, what are we doing? Really? Like, I've had that happen. And it's like, well, they voted for him. It's like, and we always say as coaches, like, you guys have 1 vote and we have 1 vote and our vote cancels yours out. But usually kind of are like, all right, well, the kids think this is a good idea. Pick 8 or 9 guys out with the consult of whoever you think should be consulting. It's probably not your entire roster. And each one, who you look for guys who have some of the components. They don't have to have all of them. Generally, you want guys that have some, we call it street cred. We've always just called it street cred. Like, they can play a little bit. You got to have some guys that can play a little bit, right? They generally can't be like the worst kid on the team, but he's a great kid. Right. They got to be kids that you can trust. They got to be kids that other kids will listen to, so they have some influence. So they have influence, but they have it mostly in a positive way. That's the leadership you're looking for. But they don't have to be, and the ones who have that, like, they're vocal and all that sort of stuff, great, but they don't have to have all that. They don't have to be, they can have different levels of that. And so we pick those kids out, and the way that squad leaders work, really simple. And the starting point is each squad leader gets assigned a squad. So, his squad, if, in our school, with, in the, 27 varsity kids and 30 JV kids or whatever it is. And they, for what do you mean? I'm 0.4 or something like that, whatever it was. And basically, like, each of those 9 got 5, 6, 7 kids assigned to them. And you get to assign the kids. So you don't randomly assign them, and you're, quiet but hardworking offensive lineman who you're not quite sure that he should be there doesn't get assigned your hardest case to deal with, right?
Right.
You put him on the squad with the kid who's going to put the thumb on him and who's going to, like, track him and all that sort of stuff and be in, get in his face or whatever it takes, whatever you think is going to work with that. And I would always, when it was a kid, when we were doing squad leaders and there's a tough kid, I would go to the kid whose squad he was going to be assigned to and be like, you think this is the right thing? Or, I mean, once they understand it, they start volunteering. Put him on my squad. And that's when they start to understand it. But initially, all that squad leaders did, initially they had 2 jobs. Number 1 was they were at the front of the line for stretching. And we didn't stretch. We just ran down and back, down and back, down and back. We're out of there. 60, 80, 100. Let's go. Jesus, don't stretch.
Let's go.
But then we do baskets drills now and that kind of stuff. And it's in athletic speed and movement. And then they had the job of, if we need to communicate to the team, I send a text message to, now eventually I would send the text message to the coaches, and each coach had 2 or 3 squads, and they would communicate directly with that squad. You send out that text blast, you don't know.
Right.
No, I want communication from every single kid. I want direct. I don't want text blasts. I want my assistant coach, who has 3 squads that he's in charge of, to text each one of his squad leaders and say, this is the deal. Text all of your guys. Text me back when you've heard from all of your guys. Tell me who you haven't heard from. I want that level, right? Not text blast and we'll just see if everybody got it. I run an internet business, folks. That's not a way to live life, to see if everybody gets it. This stuff breaks. So you initially use them as a communication web, especially like in the summer. I signed these at the beginning, in the spring, use them as a communication for 7-on-7 and stuff in the summer. And then they, as you go a little further, their job now is, everybody doesn't have this rule, but you should. If you're going to miss practice, you need to communicate with a coach, was what we used to say. And it used to be, you need to communicate. The head coach would say, you need to text me. You need to tell me. The head coach is getting a whole bunch of text messages. He's getting text messages during the start of practice. He's getting pissed off because these guys aren't here. He hadn't heard from them. And we would change that to, if you weren't going to be here, you need to communicate with your squad leader. Squad leader has 5 guys. Depending on the size school you're in, squad leader is going to see all 5 of those guys during the course of the day. Squad leader learns that his job is to make sure, not that they text him, his job is to make sure that all 5 of them are there. At the beginning of practice, we get in squad lines. Look at the squad lines. You got a squad line of 6 guys. Again, I know some of you guys have bigger teams and stuff, and so more squad leaders or a longer line or whatever, but we're talking 9, 10 guys. It's not that big difference. You split it up, however you do it. Look at the squad line. Who's not here? First of all, if the squad leader's not standing at the front, we know immediately. And somebody in the squad goes, oh, he's da-da-da, and he tells me what the deal is. He had to take a test or whatever. So the squad leader knows, like, if I'm not going to be there, I better communicate to like 3 guys in the squad because.
And coach, you just said you're texting.
He has a coach. He has a coach, but like they communicate. So, but I know that every line's supposed to have 6 guys in it or 7 guys in it. It doesn't take long. And this is how we take attendance, right? Tommy, Tommy, you only got 6 guys. Who's missing? Oh, I got to look out and go, here we go. All right. Tommy, you only got 6 guys. He's, is some such and such. He tell me right there on the field at practice. I don't have to wait on stuff. Go, okay, boom, got it. And if somebody isn't there and we didn't hear from him, like it's on now. Like that kid is 1 step away from being off the team because we've put so many things in place, right? That is unacceptable. And it's a big deal. We're putting out, like, if we have a kid who's not there and nobody's been contacted, we're like contacting, like it's Amber Alert time because we don't know. Like this is a concern.
Yeah.
Because you've put all of the systems in place. Not even a football concern. This is a, like, we don't know where this is missing child situation here.
Right.
So anyway, and then you start to, so then we would start to expand the roles. The squad leaders would meet on Monday after practice to talk about how everybody was doing in their squads. The squad leaders would have a time to meet with their squad, but that I eventually stopped doing that because they knew the deal and they talked to everybody in their squad. And then the squad leaders would meet with the head coach and, just have like a 15-minute, like, how's everybody doing? What's the feel of the team? Is there anybody we need to know about? Is there anybody's got anything going on we need to know about? Is there anybody who's upset about playing time? Is there anybody who's frustrated with this and with that? Like, what do we need to handle? Like, this is how we get all of the situations on the team. And then we've got to have that trust with everybody in the squad, and you get it. And so now they start to be the mentor to the kid, and they come and they say, yeah, I talked to him about this and I talked to him about that. It really, really works. It really works. And you're not assigning them captain of the team.
Right.
You're taking a kid, again, you're taking that 9th squad leader, and I don't care, they can put captain on their resume or whatever, it doesn't matter to me, but you're taking that 9th squad leader who's kind of on the, and you're giving him like 5 of the easiest kids to deal with. And he's just like, I talked to them all, they're good. And you're like, that's a great job, man. Thanks. By the way, they're all still going to be good tomorrow because they've been good their entire career.
Yeah.
That's why you have them. But next year, maybe you're a junior. Next year, we'll bump you up, give you some. But I mean, it was such a simple system that Rick put in place, and it's got that slider just built in. And then like just that sliders built in and things would come up. We would shuffle kids. You know, you would see that one kid wasn't getting enough guidance in his squad, and we would shuffle him to somebody else who wanted that responsibility or who felt like they could have a little bit more responsibility or felt like they had a better relationship with them. I mean, it just oh, I
Works.
don't know. I don't know where Rick got it from, or if he stole it from somebody, if he came up with himself. But I mean,
I
it's all
mean,
very Rick's story.
the French gave it to us in 1770 or whatever. So,
Sure.
like squad leader's been a thing, it's been around for a long time because it works so well.
Yeah, I mean, just applying it to a football team. I mean,
I understand. Couple things to make this go successfully for you. Number one, Joe already said you need to evaluate the guys that you were making these squad leaders from, like ones who can handle some stuff to ones who can't. You don't want to give the kid who can't the senior asshole lineman who drinks on his way to practice and smokes 5 packs of cigarettes on the weekend because he's going to have issues. That guy
yeah. You
already
don't get
has,
it because of age, right? You don't get it because
yeah.
you're a senior.
So understand there's some authority issue. Like you're making them a point of authority. And so you have to back them up in that way. If they're taking flack, you've got to be super on the ball about getting rid of that, whatever it is. They're going to take flack for being teachers' pets for the first probably year or two of your system. So it's up to you to squash that, kind of nip that in the bud. Second thing, there's a limited number of people that humans are good at being in charge of. There's the rule of 7 is kind of like if you were out in business world or militarily, and so these are trained professionals. The rule of 7 is the optimal number. You do not have trained professionals. You have kids that we just said earlier have almost none of the spokes in their bicycle wheel of leadership. So they're kind of already just running the rim around the hub there. So like 3 to 6, like Joe said, like you can have 6 guys in line. 3 is probably better. So more squad leaders is better than less.
Yeah.
Unless you just don't have them. And then I would still put some in there and then just stay on top of it. And you take on a training role there, a mentorship role for leadership. I wouldn't be afraid to rotate this throughout the season because although it can get really easy for you as they get better at it, you need to develop leadership throughout all of your kids. I think that leadership development is one of the lowest priorities for football coaches. And Joe, you said it earlier. Like I fancy myself a great leader now with almost 20 years of training, but in high school, I was like a little peon. Like I didn't matter to anybody. I wasn't going to be telling anyone what to do. I tried to be vocal one time at college about guys not, almost said kids. These are full grown men basically not being low enough during a back pedal drill. And a guy did a backflip and stared at me like, yeah, I got it. You're very athletic. I'm not. I'm the unathletic white kid. I'll shut up. So you gotta expect some weirdness from this situation. But I love the system. I think it's absolutely wonderful for developing that leadership. Let's jump into the second part here, trusting your athletes to take on leadership. And I kind of want to kick this one off with, you're gonna have to just let them fail. It's almost like being a parent again. You can't fix everything for them. So I know I just said they're going to deal with some bullying and some, teacher's pet comments. You're going to have to let them for a little bit kind of get their feathers ruffled and see how they stand up to that. Now, if they're dropping the ball, absolutely get in there and don't let it get toxic. But leadership's not easy. It's the loneliest gig on earth is to be in charge of other humans. So with all the testosterone that these kids are finding, they're getting giant injections every day from their body. There's different days, days are going to be different. They're going to have guys on their team that are great 80% of the time. And then there's that 20 that they're like, I just really don't like that guy. Liking and disliking. They're going to have to understand you're going to have people that work for you or that you work for that you may or may not like. It's just, so just be prepared to deal with some stuff for those kids, but you still have to trust them to do it. And you've got to trust them to take their licks and kind of get up and learn from it. Great way to do this is to have some kind of review, maybe weekly or whatever. Get them all in a room talking about issues they had that week. Leadership isn't I put you in charge and that's it.
Yeah.
You have to nurture it. You've got to give them guidance. So if you don't have it, you better be researching and finding some stinking guidance, because maybe you don't know how to be a leader either. And that happens, man. I didn't know, right? I mean, I still think there's a lot of high school coaches out there that their priority is not teaching leadership. It's do what I say, do it now, do it faster. We'll talk about it later, maybe. And the later almost never comes. So you've got to give them some guidance on how to do this stuff. You've got to hear their frustrations and help them critically think through it. I don't say you have to give them the answers, but get them root cause analysis and all that good stuff. And like I said, give them some support, right? It's no different than you as a head coach or an offensive coordinator or whatever. And if the person above you is not giving you support, if they're not helping you problem solve, that's what we call like toxic admin or like sometimes it's hard to work for those kind of people. So just don't be that guy to your new squad leaders either.
The really simple thing that we did to give them some ownership, which we've talked a lot about, we do the conditioning at the end of practice. And we would give them 4 or 5 things that they could do that were like essentially almost Tabata style. So like hill sprints, run 10 20s, run, or just really simple. Once in a while I do something longer, like, whatever they would do. But we will give them some options and make sure that they had some idea before they went out there day one and just said, make them go run. We'll give them some options, give them some ideas, make sure that they have some idea, especially before day one. And then end practice, bring them up, short talk. Can't have a 90-minute glory days coaching speech. Right. Short talk, this is especially good like if you're going into the weight room afterwards. So we're going to do a short conditioning and then go in the weight room for a quick lift. I prefer not to do that, but if you're doing something like that or you're going in for film or whatever it is, but either way, even if it's just practice is over, we do 90-minute practice plan. So that 90-minute practice plan doesn't include pre-practice and it doesn't include conditioning. But for me, there is a conditioning element, but that conditioning element serves 2 purposes. The one is like, these sprints are probably not all out because there's not coaches sitting there screaming at them. We give it to the squad leaders and the coaches were told to walk away, right? Just walk away. Now, we're responsible for them, so we stay within earshot because occasionally you have one kid who just decides that day he's not doing whatever anybody tells him to do, right?
That's right.
You're going to need to be nearby to handle those things because they're not, this is not the military. They are not in a corporate environment. They are not actually in charge in any way, shape, or form. You still are. And so we'd be like within earshot, come back down if needed. But most of the time, they would run conditioning. There's maybe a little grumbling, but they would run conditioning. And sometimes they get some pushback. And sometimes the conditioning is not what you might like it to be. Now, again, it helps if you're like me and you don't think it's critical to have some sort of killer conditioning at the end, but you want a little something extra. We're running a very up-paced practices. We're already pretty well conditioned with it. Weight room, giving them jobs, giving them things to do, clean up, whatever, and then letting it ride is just like, you don't have to stand over all the time. You just need to check to see, was it done? Yep. And it's a problem, by the way, when you run a business, it's really hard to hire somebody because they're never going to do it the way when I run a business, it's called Joe Daniel Football. My name is on it. There's no way around it. And so whatever comes out, I want it to be to a certain standard and I want it to be a certain way. And at some point you have to let other people do it. And then you coach them after the fact. You coach them before you give it to them. You coach them after you give it to them. They're still coaching, but you have to let it get done and not, micromanage it. And it's
right.
Like you said, I mean, at some point you've got to just let it go and let them sink or swim with a little bit of supervision. You can't just completely let it go, but those weekly meetings are really important. You've got to, if you have squad leaders or if you have anything like this, you've got to meet with them regularly. And otherwise And it doesn't have to be the head coach. Maybe you've got somebody on your staff who's, really into leadership. Maybe they come from a military background. Maybe they come from a different background where they have that, or they want them. If you have a young coach who wants that responsibility, kind of almost like an assistant head coach role for a young coach to take on. Maybe you have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and everybody needs a title, and you want somebody else to be the leadership coordinator. Just and then somebody fits that. Doesn't have to be you every day, but you have to meet with the leadership coordinator, or you have to meet with whoever's in charge of that, just like you meet with the
Right.
I think it's silly when somebody has an offensive coordinator and they don't know what the offense is. It's like, this is your light. Like, again, you're the head coach. Your name is the one. Like, whatever football program, if I'm the head coach of the football program, yeah, it's the Central Raiders or whatever, but like, it's Joe Daniel football. Like, not my company. I'm talking about if you are the head coach, it is you. You are the only one you're the only coach who anybody knows their name on the entire staff.
Right.
It's you. So how are you just going to hand the offense to somebody and walk away? Like, and if you're an offensive coordinator for somebody and you want the head coach to just give it to you and walk away, you don't understand that nobody knows your name. Nobody gives a crap who you are. Nobody's going to fire that assistant coach in high school, right? So, and especially not in youth. Like, it's only the head coach that anybody looks at. Anyway, yeah, you've got to trust them. I mean, you've got to trust them, but oversee them. But that's the hardest thing, I think, for us. Is the hardest thing for head coaches is you always just are like, I'll just do it, and it's like, you gotta give it up.
This is a great place for you mentioned earlier, like giving them whatever your conditioning is, right? Giving them everyday tasks, right? Locker room cleanup.
Yes.
Put them beside each other, so that way that section's clean. That squad leader checked and did their job, right? What you're gonna have to understand though is with everything that you give them to do, there has to be a retribution if it doesn't get done. And I don't mean you go out and run them to death or whatever. It might be more than that. It might be having a real man-to-man conversation.
Yep.
And some of this is going to get in the next piece, but you have to make them understand that every little thing they're doing now just builds them up to be able to handle that on Friday night. If they can't tell the guy next to them to pick up your nasty socks or the tape that you cut off your feet or clean your locker, dude, it smells like a pigsty, or get out here and let's do conditioning, then how the heck are they going to correct the star defensive end when he's in the wrong spot on Friday night, or when he's not reading his reads, he's just flying through gap and getting trapped, or whatever the role may be. The things that they're learning now about leadership is going to help them on Friday night. I know we're going to get to that. My last piece here in this section, Joe, before we move on, this is a great place to put a kid that's in trouble. One of those kids that we say, like he needs football more than football needs him. Give him a spot as a leader and challenge him. And you don't have to let him know what you're doing. Ask him for help. Hey, you know what? I really need these 5 guys to be out there on the practice field on time. You got to understand that he's already has some pull because he's the hardhead. He's the
They always do.
The badass, or right. He like you said earlier, he's got street cred, good or bad. This time, probably bad. So he might actually be able to take a few of your knuckleheads, put them in his squad, and ask him for his help. You could absolutely help me by getting them all down there to the practice field on time, so we can get started without any issues. Making sure they're cleaning up after themselves, making sure they're back on time when we say everybody back by 4:30 on game day, or whatever. So it's a great place to challenge a kid in need and let him start developing himself through this leadership challenge while you're giving him some stuff. Last one there, you just have to make sure that when you do this leadership stuff, you're evaluating and giving them feedback. You've said it already. I've said it already. You have to meet with them, but it isn't just a meeting to ask what concerns they have. Give them some feedback.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
You did great here. You could have done better here. I expected more here. You knocked it out of the park on this thing. Give them honest feedback so they know what to continue doing and what they really need to improve on. Let's jump to the last part here, Joe, and that's how we're going to create a system of on-field leadership. So taking everything we've talked about with these squad leaders, and we've been talking laundry and conditioning and keeping their toes on the line at practice and everybody focused and blah, blah, blah. But now it's game day. So how does that kind of leak over into your game day leadership?
I want to back up 1 second with you mentioned the kid who, needs football more than football needs him, maybe. one of the things where I talked about, there's promotion and there's demotion. That has a certain power to it where kids know that this isn't a for life or for all season deal, and if you don't get it done right, then you may be moved down, and or your squad may be, whether it's given to just redistributed among the other squad leaders or somebody else is coming up. Kids love to see that person get elevated, and so if you have somebody who has in the past had their struggles and they've shown for a while during the first part of the season, like maybe they've turned a corner that maybe you didn't even expect, but they've shown some leadership. They've still had some mistakes, and that's okay. Kids are going to do that.
We all do. No one's perfect,
But
right?
that's a great chance to elevate someone and then give them, a squad, and maybe you give them an easy squad to handle, maybe you give them a tough squad to handle. That depends. But that elevation, kids don't want to see that kid fail. They're excited that this kid, they, it's like in wrestling, everybody wants to be at the show where somebody wins the championship, whether they like that guy or not. They just want to be there for the moment. And then they don't want to be there for the championship run that sucked and the guy lost it 4 days later. They want to be there for the one that was like historical. It's
Right.
like you just got put on the squad of the kid who just got elevated, probably against all odds, to being a squad leader. Like now his squad's going to be like, all right, we can't,
Don't screw this up.
don't screw this up. Like we get out to practice early so that he doesn't, he don't have a short championship run. So it's an interesting, and then like in your squad leader meetings, it's always scenarios. So this is what's happened. This is what happened. How could we have handled it differently? What could we have said? What could we have done? Or how did we handle it and it went really well? This is the situation that we have. What are some ways we can handle it? So kid comes to you and says, I just want to tell you that such and such is, on my squad. He's upset about his playing time. And the whole squad gets to talk about how we can handle that, which is always a funny conversation because there's always the sliding scale again of, yeah, coach, he actually does deserve some playing time. Like he's worked really hard. And then there's the ones who are like, who does he think he's better than? And it's like, so we get to have those different conversations of like, this kid thinks he wants more playing time, but he don't deserve it. And this kid, let's talk about that situation compared to, man, he really has worked hard. And like occasionally you'll get the squad like lobbying you for playing time for some kid. And you're like, then you've got to, make the decision on that one. But yeah, so the last thing is creating, just like everything else, creating a system of on-field leadership. Everyone has roles and everyone has things that they do. But on the field, on game day, certain people need to be in charge. And there's this weird thing, for whatever reason, about equality, meaning everybody is the same, and it's not real. In human society, there will always be a hierarchy.
Yeah.
It just always will be. And if you have different views than that, I'm sorry. It's okay to have wrong opinions. Somebody
Fine to be
will.
wrong.
Fine to be. You are welcome to be wrong. Somebody will always be at the top, and somebody will always be at the bottom. Okay, that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean the people at the top get anything really, really special, and it doesn't mean the people at the bottom get treated like crap. But it means somebody is the leader, and so within your groups, within your position groups, who is the leader on your offensive line? Who is when my offensive line comes to the sidelines, I guarantee you there's somebody who is in charge of speaking first. And everybody knows who that is. Everybody knows who gets to speak up first. What's happening out there? One person has their thing. Then we get everybody's story. But so everything has that. Within your groups, within your position group, you should have clear leadership. Not necessarily, but you want to have, if you use the squad leaders, you want to have squad leaders as much as possible within every position group because that makes it clear that this person is. And so when you communicate with your team, you want to communicate through those people first. And then on the field, you want to give certain communication roles to certain people. Your middle linebacker is the one that everybody goes to. And probably your Mike linebacker is probably a squad leader, right? He's probably like 9 times out of 10, your Mike linebacker is a squad leader, and he's the one making the strength calls. And he is the, even in our defensive systems where we talk about the free safety is the best player on the field and he does this and he does that, the Mike linebacker always ends up being the one that everybody sees. It just, at week in and week out, it seems like that's the guy that everybody sees. And so the Mike linebacker, if you think about that, making the strength calls, communicating with the sidelines, communicating with the players, getting everybody lined up, that's a leadership role on the field. Don't just let that be organic. What is his job? The more clearly that you define it, the better. So we give things for every single player to look for. The will linebacker has a job. The will linebacker's job is to communicate down and distance. And this is in our system, and I would change it depending on the players. I wouldn't just say it's the will linebacker period, no matter what. In our system, the will linebacker, most of the time, the Mike linebacker gets the call, make sure it's communicated to everybody. The free safety gets the call, make sure it's communicated to the secondary. The will linebacker is in charge of getting up and checking down in distance. So these guys have things to do and things to say. People on the defensive line, somebody on the defensive line may be in charge of communicating with the defensive lineman. A lot of times those guys, it's more of the emotional thing with the defensive lineman because they're in a car wreck every play and they can't see everything that's going on.
Right.
But they have roles. The quarterback is the obvious one, but I've talked before about playing a team who was a very good football team, had a very athletic quarterback, but he was pretty well known to not have the greatest. He had a lot of leadership. He had a lot of influence. It wasn't always going in the right direction. It was pretty well known. And I watched the guard in a time where everybody huddled. The guard wore the wristband. The guard ran the show. Everybody knew, whether it was that wristband or what. And that coach wasn't going to say, well, the quarterback has the quarterback had leadership. He touched the ball every single time, right? But his leadership was different. His leadership was his play. His leadership was his intensity, because on the field, he was not lazy by any means. It was more his off the field stuff that took some leadership off of him. But everybody knew that guard was in charge. Your center, making the calls, making the communications. Like those are, and I've had a situation where our offensive line was very young and lacked leadership and lacked confidence. And we had a tackle who had it. But the problem is when your tackle, and that was where he fit in the scheme. The problem is when your tackle has it, he can't reach the other tackle.
That's right.
And so the H-back had a ton of leadership in our system. Within
motion so much. Well, he's got to tell everybody what to do.
He's got to run by the other tackle and make sure that they made their call.
Kicking out.
So, like, even if we want to show him on the left, if we want to line up on the left, we still have to do a hard motion, an H return motion, so he can run over, talk to the tackle, and come back. Like,
oh God,
this is stuff that, I mean, he's got to run by at some point.
I can't with this right now. That's the most ridiculous thing I could ever think of is just, hey, tell him what to do and then motion over and tell him what to do and then come back.
No. The left tackle didn't need anything. And so the left guard was fine. He just had to run over to the right side. So if I wanted to run something with the H-back on the left, like if I wanted to run power left, which we didn't do. But if I wanted to run power left, we just didn't do it. It was always power right. And H-back's the way the H-back ends up on the right with the other side. But I need to get him to get over to the right guard and right tackle at some point and communicate with them. I've also had an H-back who wasn't a leader. And the left side of the line, I needed to run him by the left side so that he could talk to them before he came back to the right where they didn't know what was going on either. It's just you've got to have who's in charge of what. And as much as it's not a sophisticated thing, like I have a whole thing of communication, but on and off the field, certain people need to be, it just needs to be known that when we go on the field, everybody's not the same. We're all together. But everybody knows that there's better athletes and worse athletes. Well, there's also better leaders and worse leaders. There's also people that do a better job on Friday night of keeping their composure. And they need to be in charge. Like your emotional leaders are great, but they shouldn't be the one in charge of getting everybody together for a quick meeting. Like when they're losing their mind in the fourth quarter, I need to have somebody who's level-headed that everybody knows this guy's level-headed. Like it's not like I can't give you the system, but you've got to know who's in charge of doing what, saying what, talking, coming on and off the field, talking to the coach on the sidelines, and having all of that together.
Yeah.
Like just, it's got to be there. You've just got to have a hierarchy on the field, and then you've got to give them roles, give them jobs.
It's conceptual, just like everything else in football, right? You just, like you said, you can't give the exact, you said earlier, your wheelbacker may not be the kid that can do down and distance because maybe he's dyslexic and he's going to screw it up or whatever, but you got to have a concept there. The idea is that you got to get your kids, there has to be a leader, hopefully a couple of them out there. They all have a job to do.
Yeah.
And then you just make it fit no different than teaching someone power. If you ain't got the kids to run it, don't run it.
Dom talked about with, when he was with the Falcons, is like there were two guys out there that were first round picks. They were the best players on the field, but they didn't know the coverage. They didn't know anything. They were just out there playing, and they were just really, really good athletes. Well, we want to put our best player at free safety in our one high systems. We want to put our best player at free safety, and we say that he should be the leader on your defense, but not if he doesn't even know the coverages. And something like we had this discussion for a long time about quarterbacks and stuff. And it's like, why does the quarterback have to be the leader? And I get that he has to he's going to be seen and he's going to be this and he's going to be that. But does he have to be the guy that makes the play calls? Does he have to be, it's like, and we've, by the way, we've solved that problem. How many coaches solve that problem? They don't have the quarterback be the leader. How do they do it? We wristband everybody. We one-word call. We signals. So your quarterback is just like the guy that says set go.
Right.
Like,
those interceptions or whatever he does.
So yeah, but so like it's the quarterback has to be the leader. It's important in some ways, but this isn't 1965. He doesn't call the plays. The quarterback would go into the huddle and call the plays, right? And literally come up with the play that he wants to run and call it in the huddle and make it's not how this game works anymore. And so, we don't all go stand in a defensive huddle. When I played in high school, we stood in a defensive huddle. We held hands, and legitimately, that was what our coaches wanted. I don't know.
No, I've been there.
And
5-5, and the middle linebacker stood in front and screamed at you. And
I got a picture right there. I don't know if we were 5-5. Yeah, yep. There's Neil standing in front of us, yelling at us. Yeah, yep. I didn't even realize 5-5. You're right. Yeah. I played on a big high school.
5-2, but two rows of 5.
2 rows of 5, and then the middle linebacker standing out in front yelling at us. And it had to be the middle linebacker, right? It just had to be. It was always the middle linebacker. And, I wouldn't do that today for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Normally it is middle linebacker. Honestly, that's just often.
They still sticker him. I noticed that he's the communicator. College got the in-helmet communication this year.
Yeah.
And I've quickly realized that it's almost always
Well, and you're not
the middle
recruiting
linebacker.
especially at a higher level, you're not recruiting a Mike linebacker who has no leadership skills.
Right.
But if you've got 15 kids on your team or you're just putting best 11, let's say best case scenario, you have 22, and your best 11 are out there on your defense, like your best 11, he may not be your Mike linebacker. The one kid that really has some experience might be your strong side defensive end in your system. It's like, all right, your strong side defensive end needs to have a lot more control of things than your Mike linebacker out there.
Yeah.
Like that's who you like. If that's the only kid, coach's kid's a great example. Coach's kids are a great example because coach's kids have often been brought up around football and they understand it better. And it's not even that they are communicating with dad. They're the ones who understand football out there. And he might not be the fastest. He might not be the biggest. He might not be the Mike linebacker. But I can tell you right now that if I have to communicate with somebody out there, a lot of times I want to communicate with the coach's kid because I know that he can turn around and communicate with the other kids around him and get things done. So it's like, where is that guy? That's my leader out there.
Yep. I like it. I think we've checked all the boxes, man. We talked squad leaders. We talked trusting athletes to take on leadership positions, and then on the field leadership that you develop out of that. Even so, all great pieces there. Joe, let's jump into our level ups real quick, man. I know that you said you have a couple.
Just one real quick because I just registered for my next weightlifting competition. So kind of been it hasn't been that long. We did one in April. I was hoping to do one this season because usually there'll be a meet that's in September, and I've never been able to do it for years. I haven't been able to do a couple of years I took off before, but most years I'm not able to do it. And this year was the championships, the kind of regional championship because we were in a Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia has the same is a regional championship now in USA weightlifting. It used to be by state, so I was the Virginia champion because I won the Virginia meet. But these are usually not in Richmond, and so actually I may have been a regional champion one year. It's not like a big deal when you're in the 45. It's not like you beat a whole bunch of people, but that was it. But I like to go to it, and they sold it out so fast. Like it was just like it was a smaller event and sold out like that, and I was just like, well, never mind. So didn't get to do that. So I'll be back in January doing one. The other thing is right now we're doing the JDFB weight room promotion, and hopefully you're on our mailing list and you'll get all the information about that. And if not, you're going to wait till January because we're closing it for the rest of the year after this. But the JDFB weight room promotion that's going on as we're recording this, which again will be closed by the time this episode comes out, going really well. We're getting a lot of coaches jumping in. We've also had a number of coaches coming in since the season is winding down or over and signing up for JDFB, and especially new annual clients. And I will say that the one thing that I am happiest about, and I know that we're working on ways to bring more opportunities to you, but I love when coaches use purchase orders, and we've had a increase in the number of purchase orders lately because guys, you have and I know we all hate fundraising. And like I said, I'm working on opportunities to make that easier for you, but I just, it doesn't all have to come out of your pocket, I hope. And there are opportunities and there are ways, and some of it's just more work. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's just easier. It's like anything else. Like, so it's like what we've been talking about this whole show is like, at the end of the day, it's easier to just put your credit card down and get access to JDFB and not worry about all this stuff. When you do a purchase order, by the way, you do an annual, you do whatever, you don't have to worry about it renewing because it's not how purchase orders work. So if you don't want that, you just do a purchase order through your program. Boom, it's taken care of. But like, it's easier just to slap your credit card down than to organize a thing. But fundraiser, the more coaches, I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate the coaches who pay out of pocket. I really, truly do. And I understand that it's difficult, and I understand that it's expensive, and I understand that this is just a hobby and we don't make enough money to pay for gas. I understand all of that.
No doubt.
but I love when you don't pay out of pocket. I love when you get the fundraising, or you get the, you're able to do that, and you use it for something that's really going to help your team. Because I think that we pay for a lot of stuff that doesn't help your team sometimes, and JDFP helps your team. So, yeah. So appreciate the coaches that are either way, but I'm excited to see more coaches going the purchase order route recently.
That is that's a great way, if you can ever create an LLC for yourself for all of your coach spending, that is another great way to do it, because then all these things are tax write-offs. So if I am not a legal advisor, I'm not a financial advisor, I am saying I have an LLC so that I can spend, when I buy a coach tube thing and learn, and that's a tax write-off. So think about that, coaches. POs are another great way. That way the school pays for it, and the school gets a tax write-off for it. But you didn't come out.
I'd rather have the school pay for it. And tax write-off does not make it free.
No,
at all. I would rather have the school just pay for it.
Yeah, for sure. So do whatever works for you. I spent the whole episode trying to think of my level up, and
here we are. Pressure's on.
Pressure's on. I spent my first weekend this weekend with my new military unit, because obviously I commissioned back in, what was that? October 1st, I think, was my commissioning date. So just over a month ago, and taking on new leadership role there. Speaking about a whole podcast of leadership. So this was my first weekend to get in really and see what my new platoon looks like. And that's always a lot of fun to kind of see. This, I was going to make this pretty serious, but I think I'll just make it pretty comical. So I've obviously meeting everyone and figuring out who's got strengths where, and I've already started like taking notes mentally about, oh, that person seems pretty strong in this area, but weak there. I'm using ChatGPT to develop like a 50-question Google Sheets test that will almost like, what was that test you had me take, Joe, that gave us our, it's like not personalities, but
Colby tells you your work style. KOLB.
Yeah, so the work style thing. So it's kind of that, but with the Army's core values. So like, where do these people, and honestly, the be no do model. So it's like, I'm trying to develop a test that have everyone take. So it'll show me where they are, scale like 0 to 10 or whatever, with the things the Army says is important about leadership. So that way I can start helping develop more people there. But I want to tell this very, very funny story, because I'm going to piss some people off here, and I don't care. I spent my first 14 or 15 years in the Army in transportation, where unfortunately I was usually one of the smarter guys in the room. And that's just how it works, right? Everybody knows the infantry and transportation is like where we get the most waivers to get people in who can't score high on their ASVAB or whatever, because it's like, you're just going to go drive a truck, or you're going to go run around and shoot a gun. It's just kind of what it is. Nothing against those guys. That's just stereotypical. You can't pass the ASVAB, you get a waiver, you go do one of those two jobs. And so that's what my first 14 years was around, those type of people. And then I did 5 years of OCS around the greatest people in the Army, developing future leaders. And then last year I've been in the infantry I was just a support element, but we spent every waking moment cooking for, developing fuel for, or ammo, whatever, for the infantry. And I got to kind of see how they worked. Well, all those people were kind of the same soldier. Like, when it was truck drivers, they were probably a little bit overweight, but they were what you think of like a person from the South who drives trucks. That's who they were. And the infantry was like, they were all super strong and buff, because all they, it's like meatheads with guns. And now I'm in a signal company, and so it's a bunch of computer nerds, and by God does it show. My company commander was planning a like 10-person meetup for Magic the Gathering. And when I say those persons, it was like some of the higher ranking people I've ever met in the U.S. military were going to spend their Veterans Day today playing Magic the Gathering, because everybody's furloughed because the government shut down anyway. So yeah. So when I say like I completely changed environments, I went from like steak and taters to Pew Pew Bang Bang to like Sheldon Cooper everywhere. And I love it. It's so fun because I'm gonna have to learn how to exist and lead and operate in a whole new environment. I mean, we get on here and talk about, assess your team and make a leadership, but you don't ever know what you're gonna get, man. And so now I'm dealing with. I am no longer the smartest person in the room, and it makes me so happy because I can go grab people and learn from them. But also with intelligence comes weirdness. And look, I played Magic the Gathering in my lifetime. I'm okay with it. I've played Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not like I don't have things to. I think I might have one Magic deck that I bought in Afghanistan because like that's what we did at night. But I'm not committed to that. It's not one of my hobbies or anything. So, I'm super cool with jumping back in there and learning with these guys. And it gives us another way to hang out and do stuff that's fun. It's just very different. So I guess really my level up is I've met some people, they're weird as shit, and I love weird people because I'm a weird person. And I'm excited about the future. So I will challenge you to a Magic duel when I come up there in a few months. And
that's one I don't have in my bag.
I'll bring you a deck. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure I'll have one. I got it. I will say that I got it in ninth grade and played a little bit, but I think I got.
I hope people are listening this far into the podcast.
Yeah, I got a girlfriend after that. I never played again.
Yeah, for sure. I've tried to get back to my oldest son because I had an old deck that I brought home from overseas. I got him one, but it was like at the time he was too young to understand the points and the all the stuff that goes into it. So he's gotten into Pokemon and then got out of it, thankfully, very quickly. But all those battle card games, like he hasn't ever understood the true concepts. I think at one point he just drew like 30 cards and attacked me. You know what I mean? Like my one card that he gave me.
I never got into it. I didn't like. I'm into so many nerdy things: comic books, video games, fantasy novels, Star Wars, sci-fi, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
the card games never. And I even like dabbled around the same time in Dungeons and Dragons, and I was way more into that than Magic. And like I know, like when I was playing Witcher 3, just speaking, tying this all together, Witcher 3 has a card game in it called Gwent. And some people talk about like I've spent 1,000 hours playing Gwent, and there wasn't anything I wanted to do less in that game. Right. I didn't understand what was going on. Like I kind of understood it, but I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like,
Final Fantasy 9 and the card game in there was like, it's just too much. A
card game. That's actually one I haven't played yet.
Yeah,
Final Fantasies are like all I do is get about almost done, and then I'm halfway through 6, almost done with 7, almost done with 10.
Oh, you gotta get in the 9. 9's a great story.
Got a long way in 1, 5. I have 9's on the list. Yeah, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9 is the ones I care about.
Yeah.
Before that, great. After that, I'll have to. But they all went online, and it got weird. And
well, only 11 and 14 are the MMOs. 12 and 13, but I tried 15. That just wasn't for me because it was like it wasn't. They were like driving a car in the desert, and I was just like on Route 66 or something like that. I don't know, like some random world, but it wasn't. It could have been set in 2008. It would have been no different. And I was just like, I don't want this. Like, where's the knights and the wizards and the mages and
yeah.
Like those are the same thing. But
8 is a little weird, right? Because it's kind of futuristic.
Well, yeah, and then like 10's a little futuristic, but at the same time, there's still like weird characters and stuff. And I don't know. It just didn't bother me.
Touche. At least the main guy in 15, it looks to still have a sword. That's good.
Oh, that's good.
All right, man.
Like 7 was like some futuristic steampunk type world, wasn't it? With Cloud and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I guess kind of. Theoretically, yes.
Or post-apocalyptic type world, maybe.
It was like, yeah. How do you describe that? Yeah, steampunk's kind of good, I guess. I don't know if it was any more in the future. It was just a city built on top of a city that you were escaping. Yeah, I don't know. They still used an airship. Like,
well, yeah, that's the whole thing has it here. This was really going off the rails.
That's okay.
They still have an airship. No, yeah. If you're still listening, like the football's over. Like it's okay.
We talked about football. We tried it.
Yeah, we did that. We got into football really fast. We saved all this till the end. So there you go.
Sweet. Well, that's a wrap. Before you move on, please do pass this along. whether it be the Magic the Gathering or the how to develop leadership or whatever drew you in. Pass along, let guys experience that with you. Send it to a coach, a parent, a player. If someone loves football or any of the crazy stuff we talk about in our level ups, please do send it to them. They'll get something out of it too. Tonight we talked about developing player leadership, squad leaders, trusting your athletes, take on leadership, and creating a system of on-field leadership. I may have already said this part. Last week it was how to adjust your defense to motions and shifts. Next week we're going to talk about we can't run the ball effectively. One last time, Joe, let's pay the bills and get out of here, man.
Yeah, go check out the free guide. If you need to put together your defensive system, if you've got a stack of plays, it doesn't really mesh together, or you got just the practice. If everything isn't in sync, if the practice planning, the playbook, the game plan, the game day, the play calls, if it's not all in sync, then you've got to tighten up your system, and that's going to be the number one thing. If it feels overcomplicated, if it feels like the kids aren't getting it, if they're confused, if they're frustrated, if the coaches are confused and frustrated, check out what you need to know to build the ultimate defensive football coaching system. It's a blueprint to simplify your defense, to get your players to buy in and take control of the game. And you can get a free copy right now at footballdefense.com. So start building your ultimate defensive system today. It is a free PDF download that you'll get instant download at footballdefense.com.
Love it. athleticspeedmovement.com. Jump over there. The time is now. This is when you can get the most advantage out of using Athletic Speed Movement. Look, we put together a program for you. Okay, 12-week program. You're going to meet 2 to 3 times a week. We have an end season that you convert to later when you get back to football. But now is the time you're going to make your kids faster. It isn't just send them off to the track team, let the track coach deal with it. Football is not a linear sport where you get to just sprint all out. You need that explosiveness, those cuts, those moves, how to read it. Get your kids in athleticspeedmovement.com and be faster next year. Sales opening and closing, Joe. I know that, weight room just went out. Is that correct?
Yep. We'll have over the Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we will have the Football Coaching 101 series, which is Football Coaching 101, Football Coaching Mastery, and the Coordinator Masterclass. It is kind of the progression that I wish I had when I was a head coach and I had a young staff, a kind of an experienced couple guys on staff, wanted to mentor them. And I ran into all of the things that we talk about, the fundraising, the leadership development, the weight room, and all of that. And I just never had the time to sit down with those coaches and give them that knowledge that I wanted them to have. And so after that was over and I realized the opportunity that I had missed out on, that I was no longer a head coach, I created a system to make that happen. It's the Football Coaching 101 series. Football Coaching 101 is the things I think you should know before you ever step on a football field, but most coaches don't. Football Coaching Mastery is what I would want my coaching staff to know after 1 year with me, but I failed to accomplish that. And I'd say most coaches don't know this stuff until at least 5 or 10 years in, if they ever get it. And then Coordinator Masterclass is what you need to know if you are a play caller or want to be a play caller, to organize practices, game planning, film study, all of that stuff. And again, that's going to be out over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving weekend timeframe.
Love it. Get in there, guys. Get in. I would highly recommend just buy the highest tier. If you're a head coach, a new head coach, want to be a head coach, use the highest one. And then if you have assistants under you, let them use those other ones, whether it be the coordinator roles or
so what we have is we have a deal for head coaches. You buy the Coordinator Masterclass level, the highest level. You can add as many coaches as you want to that forever. I think it's 97, maybe 147, something like that. It's less. It's a lot less. And you can add those coaches anytime. Anytime you can just email and say, hey, I want to add these coaches. You don't have to wait for a enrollment opening. You hire a new coach, get them in there and get them what they need.
Yep. Love it. Do that thing. It's good for you. Social media, I suppose. I am at Coach Chamber OK on Twitter /X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I do have a website, chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. Really just a place to find the podcasts. I'm not doing much over there right now. I need to, I think. And then, of course, go check out the YouTube. You'll just have to look at Chamberlain Football Consulting YouTube. Joe, where are you at, sir?
I am on Facebook, facebook.com/Joe Daniel Football. And we are on Twitter, x.com/footballinfo, FOOTBALINFO. Everything else is at Joe Daniel Football on TikTok, on Instagram. Joe@JoeDanielFootball is the email address, and JoeDanielFootball.com, of course, is where posting new blogs every week, new blog articles every week, in depth. They are long form blog articles, not short. I do short in the emails, I do long in the blog posts. And then, of course, you can always find the podcast there as well.
Love it. If this is the first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, especially Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you've been listening for a while, please leave us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. For whatever reason, that is where most people listen. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, like it says at the bottom of the screen right now, coach simple, play fast, win.